Late night videos, late night vibes, late night news. We love it. Huge news from the Premier League. Antonio Conte has gone. That's right. There is white smoke currently over the Seven Sisters Road. I cannot believe it. One of the best managers that Tottenham could get. One of the best managers that Tottenham have ever had. One of the most gifted, brilliant, and clever managers that Tottenham could dream of sitting in the home dugout at White Hart Lane has now left. And guess what? What a sad indictment this is on Tottenham Hotspur. They had a manager with the brilliance and the guile and the winning mentality of Antonio Conte, and they didn't even get one full season out of him. Tottenham couldn't even get one full season out of Antonio Conte. He did 17 months. And do you know what's interesting about that? Another brilliant manager that Tottenham have had. Another truly great manager that Tottenham have had who they couldn't get the best out of, Jose Mourinho. Do you know how long he had? He had about 17 months. So two of the best managers that Tottenham have had in the Premier League era, two of the very best, the zenith of the game, 17 months. That is all they can cope with Tottenham. That is all they can cope with working for Daniel Levy. That is all they can commit to a club that is run in that ridiculous way. And look, people are going to want to talk about Conte here. People are going to want to make this about Conte. But I think this tells us so much more about Daniel Levy than it does about anything else. This tells us about the way that Tottenham are running. It really does. Tottenham are currently now searching for a 12th permanent manager on the watch of Daniel Levy. And a 4th permanent manager since Mauricio Pochettino was sacked in 2019. They are getting so much wrong, and it doesn't matter who they bring in. If they aren't going to back the manager properly, don't bother doing it. You know, we spoke about Tottenham's window, didn't we? We spoke about Tottenham's window in the summer. It was, on a superficial level, a very impressive window. Richarlison came in, Yves Bissouma came in, Jed Spence came in, and we kind of went, this could be good for Tottenham. Antonio Conte he told us that he didn't want Jed Spence. He told us that Jed Spence was a club signing, who is now, by the way, at Rennes in France. So you think he has told us that he doesn't want Jed Spence. He's told us that he's a club signing, and yet that's what he's been provided with. That isn't how you run a club. That isn't how you get the best out of Antonio Conte. I am baffled that Tottenham can have made a manager as gifted as Antonio Conte look as demented as he did in that interview. That interview after the Southampton game was mind-blowing, wasn't it? When he spoke truth, but he spoke in a wild, unpredictable, flammable way. We know that it's unacceptable. We knew that it was going to end like this, but on some level, you cannot blame Antonio Conte for doing what he did. So, it's time for a change, and the change is here. Conte has gone. Christian Stellini will be taking over as acting head coach with Ryan Mason. I don't know about you, but for me, this is an unprecedented situation. I cannot think of a situation like this ever, where a manager's long-time number 2 becomes a number 1 when the number 1 leaves. I just can't believe this. I imagine and presume that this has been done with Antonio Conte's blessing, because we know that the friendship between Stellini and Conte, they're like brothers. Conte's actual brother was involved in the backroom staff. He's gone, but Stellini has stayed. Now, this baffles me, but I do find it entertaining, and I do find it very interesting. It's going to be fascinating to actually deduce what kind of a man Stellini is, what kind of a manager he is. Will he rip up the Conte blueprint? Will he come with his own ideals, or will he focus on Conte and just put his own tweaks in? It's going to be very interesting to see how much he deviates from what Conte has been doing, and we are going to get a sense of exactly who Stellini is over the next 10 games, because at the moment, we've only known him as a number 2. It's going to be so interesting. Will he stick to the Conte formation? I feel like injuries may force him to, but does he actually want to? It's going to be so interesting to see how this is going to run. I'll tell you what else is huge. This is actually like a tragedy, isn't it? It's like a Greek tragedy. There's so much going on. Stellini and Conte, are they still mates? I'll tell you who we know aren't. If you read the press release, if you read the words that Daniel Levy says, it's amazing how he has managed to issue a press release about Antonio Conte leaving the club, and he literally doesn't mention Antonio Conte. Do you know how much effort and linguistic gymnastics you have to go to talk about somebody leaving your club and not mention them? At no point did he say, thank you very much to Antonio Conte. At no point did he say, we appreciate the contribution of Antonio Conte. He literally didn't mention him. You know, he spoke about the fact that they have 10 games remaining and how they've got a real fight on their hands and how they're dreaming of getting in the Champions League and how everyone needs to pull together. And he obviously mentioned the fans. You know, we love our loyal fans. You know, it's pandering. At no point did he mention Antonio Conte. Now, that is wild. But it tells us exactly what he thinks of Antonio Conte. It tells us exactly how he feels about Antonio Conte, because even the most fraught and strained professional relationships will end in a handshake. Even genuine dislike will end in a handshake. And a handshake in this circumstance will be a nod in the statement. And Antonio Conte did not get that. I cannot believe it. But Stellini is in and Conte is out. So what we know by Stellini going in is that Tottenham are now going to take their time over this managerial appointment. Again, you know, they're going to take their time. They took their time before, didn't they, with Conte first time round? And remember when it ended up with 9th choice Nuno and all that? They're now going to take their time again. But we will have to see how this one goes. I wonder if this news could signal a change of approach from Daniel Levy. Like, I thought that Mourinho and Conte were great appointments. I thought they were going to work. I thought it was everything that Tottenham needed. And I still believe that it was, if they were treated properly. They weren't, and therefore it didn't work. So I wonder if this will now signal a change in the way that Daniel Levy has approached it. I wonder if this will signal a different approach from him, because I think they need it. I really, really do. As much as I think that, you know, Conte and Mourinho are great managers, on some level, there isn't a fit with Tottenham. Tottenham fans, the way that they approach the game, you know, I live in North London. I know enough Tottenham fans. I know what they want. They believe in being entertained. And I think Daniel Levy now, who has in the past spoken about the Tottenham DNA and all that, he needs to input some of that paradigm, some of that school of thought into the next manager. He needs to believe in his own words and actually appoint somebody who is in keeping with the traditions of the club, because otherwise you end up with a situation where you get another manager having another outburst, criticising the spirit, criticising the professionalism of the players, talking about the players being selfish, talking about the players needing alibis from the press, talking about the Tottenham story as if it's like that's the reason that there's failure, talking about Daniel Levy's record. So ultimately, they need a total reset, and maybe this will be it. But yeah, this is just fascinating. It really is fascinating. And how this is going to go with Stellini staying on as number 2, I honestly don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really interested to hear what you have to say. Please do me a favour. If you're new around here, I would love for you to click subscribe. I would love to welcome you into this community. Thank you so much for watching. Please give the video a like. Have a wonderful night. I certainly will. Unlucky Tottenham.